The lights of the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas had never felt so heavy. Dean Martin stood backstage, straightening his tie in front of a cracked mirror. His reflection looked calm, smooth hair, confident eyes, the same easy smile America adored. But inside, something felt off. The room was too quiet. The laughter from the crowd outside sounded distant, like it was coming from another world. He had performed on thousands of stages. He had sung through heartbreaks, scandals, and storms. But tonight felt different. A stagehand rushed past him, pale and trembling. "Everything okay?" Dean asked casually, trying to keep his cool tone. The man hesitated, then shook his head. "They're still setting things up. 5 minutes, Mr. Martin." Dean nodded, but his instincts screamed something was wrong. He reached into his jacket pocket and touched the small folded note he carried everywhere. It was old, faded, handwritten. "Don't ever lose your softness, Dino. The world needs men who feel deeply." Marilyn Monroe. The woman the world worshipped. The woman he never stopped worrying about. They weren't lovers in the fairy tale sense. They were something quieter, deeper. Two broken stars who recognized each other's cracks. Dean had met her years ago in Hollywood, during a late-night shoot that dragged on forever. Everyone else had gone home. He was the only one still sitting on set, humming a tune under his breath. She had appeared beside him like a whisper. "That's a sad song," she said softly. "Most honest ones are," he replied. She smiled, not the Marilyn smile, not the camera smile. The tired one, the real one. That night, they talked until sunrise. And now, tonight, something in his chest tightened. The show begins. The band struck the opening note. The curtain rose. Dean stepped into the spotlight. Applause exploded. Thank you," he said with his classic grin. "Relax, folksime, not Sinatra." Laughter rolled through the crowd. But behind the jokes, his eyes searched the darkness. He always imagined Marilyn sitting somewhere in the audience, somewhere unseen, somewhere safe. He sang. He joked. He played the role the world loved. Then, between songs, he saw the manager rushing from the side of the stage. The man's face was white. The band stopped playing. The room went silent. Dean leaned toward the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, looks like even my band is afraid of me." Weak laughter. The manager whispered something into his ear. 4 words. That was all it took. "She's gone, Dean. Marilyn's dead." The world cracked. Lights blurred. The applause faded into nothing. Dean stared forward, frozen. 1,000 thoughts hit him at once. Not her. Not Marilyn. Not the woman who laughed like a child and cried like a storm. Not the woman who hated being alone more than anything. His mouth opened. No sound came out. The audience waited. The silence grew unbearable. Then Dean slowly leaned into the microphone. His voice wasn't the Dean Martin voice anymore. It was just Dino. "I just lost someone very important to me." The crowd shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know how to sing right now," he continued, eyes shining under the stage lights. "But I know she'd be mad if I didn't try." He swallowed. "I'm gonna sing this for a friend who is too gentle for this world." The song he could barely finish, the band softly began. Dean started singing a slow, trembling ballad. Not for the crowd, not for fame, for Marilyn. His voice cracked on the second verse. On the third, he stopped. He turned away from the mic. The audience didn't move, not a sound. He wiped his face, then whispered, barely audible, "I'm sorry I couldn't save you," and walked off the stage. The aftermath that night, Dean didn't go back to the casino. He didn't drink. He didn't talk. He sat alone in his hotel room with the lights off, holding Marilyn's last note. The world would say she was famous. Beautiful, loved. But Dean knew the truth. She was lonely. And loneliness doesn't care how bright your spotlight is. He stared out the window at the Vegas lights. And for the first time in years, Dean Martin didn't feel like singing ever again. The nights after that show were the worst. Dean Martin didn't return to the stage. He didn't answer calls. He didn't open the curtains. Las Vegas kept shining outside his hotel window, but inside his room, everything felt dim and heavy. Marilyn's voice lived in his head now. Not the public voice. Not the glamorous one. The quiet one. The one that used to ask, "Do you ever get tired of pretending you're okay?" He sat on the edge of his bed, holding the phone in his hand. He had tried calling her number 3 times already, knowing no one would answer. Still, his thumb kept hovering over the dial. He closed his eyes. Memories started playing like an old film. The last time he saw her, it had been months ago in Los Angeles. It's a small party. Too many people. Too much noise. Marilyn stood in the corner, wearing a simple white dress, trying not to be seen. Dean walked over. "You look like someone stole your spotlight." She smiled faintly. "I wish they would." They stepped outside onto the balcony, away from the crowd. The city lights stretched endlessly below them. "I'm tired, Dean," she said. "Tired from what?" "From being everyone's dream and no one's reality." He laughed softly. "That sounds like a line from one of my sad songs." She didn't smile this time. "Promise me something," she said. "What?" "Promise you won't disappear when things get dark." He had answered too fast. "I won't. Never." Now that promise echoed in his chest like a broken vow. The weight of what he didn't do back in the hotel room. Dean poured himself a drink. Then he didn't touch it. He stared at the glass like it had betrayed him. "I should have called you," he whispered to the empty room. "I should have listened more." He remembered all the times he'd been busy. All the times he'd said, "Next week." All the times he'd chosen the stage over a friend. Fame gives you everything except time when you need it most. The newspapers called her a legend. Hollywood called her an icon. Dean called her alone. He lay back on the bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling until the sun came up. Sleep never came. The letter he never sent 2 days later. Dean finally sat at the desk. He pulled out a sheet of paper and started writing. "Dear Marilyn, I don't know where people go after they leave this world. I just hope wherever you are, the noise is gone. I hope no one is asking you to smile when you don't feel like it." His hand shook. "I heard your laughter in my head last night. It didn't hurt at first. Then it did." He stopped, tore the paper in half, then started again. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. I told myself you were strong. I forgot strong people still break." This time, he folded the letter carefully and placed it beside her old note. 2 pieces of paper, 2 unfinished conversations. A visit he didn't expect that evening. There was a knock on his door. Dean almost didn't answer. But something told him to get up. He opened the door to find an older woman standing there. Her hair was gray. Her eyes were tired. "I'm sorry to disturb you," she said gently. "I was Marilyn's acting coach. She talked about you." Dean swallowed. "What did she say?" The woman hesitated. "She said you were one of the few people who treated her like a human, not a fantasy." Those words hit harder than any headline. The woman continued. "She also said she hoped you'd forgive her one day for not being strong enough." Dean felt his knees weaken. "She didn't need forgiveness," he said. "She needed peace." The woman nodded slowly. "So do you." The question that changed him. After she left, Dean sat alone again. But this time, the silence felt different. Not empty. Heavy with purpose. He looked at Marilyn's note in his hand and asked himself something he had never asked before. What do you do when someone you love is gone? You can drown, or you can carry them forward. Dean Martin had spent his life running from pain with laughter and music. But now, the pain had caught him. And for the first time, he decided not to run. The funeral was quiet. No flashing cameras, no shouting fans. Just a small group of people who knew Marilyn as a person, not a poster. Dean Martin stood at the back, wearing dark glasses. Not for style, for protection. He watched the casket being lowered and felt something inside him lower with it. Not just grief. Responsibility. He hadn't been there when she needed someone. Okay, but he was here now. And somehow, that had to mean something. The words he couldn't say out loud when it was over, people drifted away in silence. Dean stayed behind. The sky was gray. The wind was gentle. He stepped closer to the grave. No microphones, no audience. Just truth. "I don't know how to talk to you like this," he said softly. "You were always better at pretending everything was okay. I was better at believing it." He took off his glasses. "I should have seen the tired in your eyes. I should have heard the fear in your jokes." His voice dropped. "I'm sorry." The word fell heavy. Then he added, "I can't change what happened, but I can change what I do next." A different kind of stage Dean didn't return to Las Vegas right away. He drove across California with no destination, no schedule, no spotlight. Just open roads and closed thoughts. He stopped at a small town one evening. A tiny theater with a sign outside. Community Open Mic Night. Dean Martin almost laughed. Then he walked inside. There were no celebrities. No agents. Just ordinary people holding guitars, poems, and nervous dreams. When it was his turn, he stood on that little stage. No spotlight, no big band. Just a microphone and silence. "I'm not here to perform," he said. "I'm here to listen." And he did. A young woman sang about losing her mother. A boy recited a poem about feeling invisible. An old man played a song for a wife who never came back from the hospital. Dean felt something open inside him. This was what Marilyn had needed. Not applause, not fame. Someone who listened. The promise. That night, alone in his motel room, Dean took out her old note again. "Don't ever lose your softness, Dino." He looked at it for a long time. Then he spoke out loud. "I won't." He decided something right then. He would stop running from pain. He would stop hiding behind jokes. He would use his voice differently now. Not just to entertain, but to reach. Back to the world, but changed. When Dean returned to the stage weeks later, people expected the same old Dean Martin. The same smooth jokes. The same careless charm. But something was different. Between songs, he spoke. Not as a star, as a man. He told the audience about loneliness, about how even the brightest people can feel invisible, about how kindness can save lives. Not with speeches, with honesty, and people listened. They cried. They stayed quiet. They felt seen. Her presence in the quiet moments after every show, Dean would sit alone for a few minutes. No drinks, no crowd, just stillness. He imagined Marilyn sitting in the back row, arms folded, smiling softly. Not the movie star smile, the real one, the peaceful one. He wasn't trying to forget her. He was carrying her forward. The man he was becoming. Dean Martin used to sing to escape his pain. Now he sang to face it. He used to perform to be loved. Now he performed to understand love. And slowly, quietly, the broken man on that Vegas stage was becoming something new. Not perfect, not healed, but honest. And for the first time since Marilyn was gone, Dean Martin felt like he was finally doing something right. Time didn't heal Dean Martin the way people said it would. It didn't erase Marilyn. It didn't silence the memories. What time did was teach him how to live with them. Months passed, then years. Dean kept performing, but the way he performed had changed. He wasn't just singing anymore. He was telling stories with his voice. He let the quiet moments stay quiet. He let the sad notes sound sad. And people felt it. They didn't come only to laugh. They came to understand. The letter he finally read aloud one night. After a show in a small theater, Dean stayed behind when the crowd left. A few people remained in their seats. Not because they were waiting for an encore, because they didn't want the feeling to end. Dean stood on the empty stage and held up a folded piece of paper. "I never share personal things," he said. "But tonight, I'm going to." He opened Marilyn's old note and read it. "Don't ever lose your softness, Dino. The world needs men who feel deeply." The room went completely still. Dean looked up. "I tried to lose it," he admitted. "For years, I thought softness made you weak. I was wrong." A different kind of applause. No one clapped right away. People just sat there, breathing quietly. Then someone in the back whispered, "Thank you." And that meant more than 1,000 cheers. The visit that closed the circle a few weeks later, Dean went back to the cemetery. Not with grief this time. With calm, he stood by Marilyn's grave and spoke like he was talking to an old friend. "I'm not angry anymore," he said. "Not at you. Not at myself." He placed the note beside the stone. "You gave the world beauty. I'm trying to give it honesty." The wind moved softly through the trees. And for the first time since that night in Las Vegas, Dean felt quiet inside. The final lesson: Dean Martin never stopped missing Marilyn, but he stopped blaming himself. He stopped asking what he should have done, started asking what he could do now. And the answer was simple. Be present. Be kind. Listen when someone is tired, because sometimes the loudest cry for help sounds like a joke. And sometimes the brightest smile hides the deepest pain. The man he became years later, people would talk about Dean Martin as a legend, a singer, an entertainer, a star. But the people who really knew him remembered something else. They remembered a man who learned how to feel, who stopped running, who let one broken friendship change the way he treated the world. The peace he earned on his last tour. Dean stood backstage before going out. He touched the same folded note in his pocket and smiled. Not a stage smile, a real one. He walked into the light, not to escape his pain, but to honor it.